My ex-in-laws invited me to a family wedding to humiliate me as a discarded mistake. "Come see what a real wife looks like," the invite said. I didn't cry. I showed up with my daughter, and that's when the wedding became a nightmare. It showed up on a Tuesday, because of course it did. If Evelyn Harrington could schedule my humiliation on a shared calendar, she would. Rachel, my assistant, my human firewall, the only person in this building who can look at chaos and say nope without flinching, walked into my office holding a thick cream envelope like it was contagious. "Jenna," she said carefully, "some guy downstairs wouldn't leave until I signed for it. Certified mail. Signature confirmation." I looked up from my laptop. I was mid-call notes, trying to translate a client's vague dream of something viral but classy into actual words that wouldn't get us sued. "Signature required?" I repeated. Rachel nodded. "He had a whole clipboard. He acted like he was delivering a kidney." That was when I saw the return address. Harrington Estate outside Charlotte. Rachel watched my face do that tiny freeze it does when my past knocks. "Oh," she said, quieter. That Harrington, I confirmed. Rachel's hand hovered near the shredder button like she was ready to end a bloodline. "Say the word." 5 years ago, I would have said it. I would have pretended I didn't care and then cried in my car like an overachiever. Now, I just stared at the envelope. It was expensive, textured, heavy, the kind of paper that whispers, "We have generational wealth and the audacity to match." And then, because the universe likes consistency, the perfume hit me through the seal. Evelyn's perfume. It didn't smell like flowers. It smelled like control. Rachel leaned in. "Do you want me to open it? Like, with gloves?" "No," I said. "If they're going to insult me, I want the full sensory experience." I slid my finger under the seal and opened it. The invitation inside was absurd. Gold foil, letterpress, a watercolor illustration of the Harrington estate like the venue was the real bride. "Preston Harrington and Catherine Monroe request the honor of your presence." For half a second, my brain tried to do the old trick. Pretend this was normal. Pretend I was just a guest. Pretend time hadn't happened. Then I saw the smaller card tucked behind the invitation. Not printed. Handwritten. Evelyn's handwriting was elegant in the way a knife can be elegant. I read it once, then again, because I wanted to be sure my eyes weren't exaggerating. "Come see what a real wife looks like." Rachel made a sound somewhere between a gasp and a growl. "Oh my God." My stomach did that familiar twist, the one that used to pull me into a smaller version of myself. And then it stopped. Not because it didn't hurt, because I wasn't that woman anymore. Evelyn hadn't sent this because she wanted me at the wedding. She sent it because she wanted me at home, imagining it. Sitting alone, picturing Preston under fairy lights, marrying a woman Evelyn approved of, while I stayed the shameful footnote. Rachel said, "You don't have to go." "I know," I replied. She waited for me to say I'd toss it. Instead, I opened the RSVP link on my phone and clicked accept. Rachel's eyebrows jumped. "Jenna, I'm going," I said, calm. Rachel blinked like she'd misheard. "Why would you do that to yourself?" I looked at her. Then I said the sentence that changed everything. "And I'm bringing Lily." Rachel's mouth fell open. "Your daughter." "My 5-year-old daughter," I confirmed. Rachel stared at me, then at the envelope, then back at me. "So, we're not going to sit quietly near the bathroom and pretend we don't exist." I smiled, sharp. "No, We're going to be polite." Rachel narrowed her eyes. "Aggressively." "Exactly," I said. I slid the invitation into my desk drawer like it was a contract. Because that's what it was. Evelyn had invited me to be humiliated. I was going to show up with the truth. I met Preston Harrington at a waterfront restaurant in Charlotte called South Shore, the kind of place where the menu uses words like deconstructed and everyone pretends that's normal. I was 25, working double shifts, saving for night classes, and trying to keep my life from sliding off the table. Preston walked in with a group of guys in button-downs and expensive watches, celebrating something that involved the word portfolio and too many drinks they didn't pay for themselves. He wasn't loud. He wasn't flashy. He was polished. Calm voice, steady eye contact. The kind of man who makes you feel like you're the only person he can see. He asked my name and listened like it mattered. He tipped well. He came back the next week, then the next. He was charming in a way that felt safe, like adulthood with good lighting. When he finally asked me out, it didn't feel like a risk. It felt like relief. For a while, it was good. Preston took me to nice places, but he also came over to my tiny apartment and ate takeout on the couch like a normal person. He remembered details. He held my hand. He said he admired how hard I worked. I didn't realize he was also carefully managing my exposure to his family like I was an allergen. The first time I asked about his mom, he said, "She can be intense." "How intense?" I asked. He hesitated. "She cares." That was his favorite word for her, cares. Not controls, not dominates. Not emotionally annexes entire rooms. Cares. The first time I went to the Harrington estate, I knew I was entering a different ecosystem. The house wasn't cozy, it wasn't lived in, it was curated. Like joy had to be approved by a committee. Evelyn came down the staircase in pearls because of course she did. Evelyn didn't wear casual. Evelyn wore power. She kissed Preston's cheek and held his face like she was checking for scratches. Then she turned to me. "So, you're Jenna," she said, stretching my name out like it was a foreign object. "Yes," I replied. "Nice to meet you, Mrs. Harrington." "Oh," she said sweetly. "Please. Evelyn." Translation: "I'm going to be in your life forever." She smiled. She didn't look mean. She looked assessing. "What do you do, dear?" she asked. "I work in marketing." Her eyes flicked down to my shoes and back to my face. "How modern." I smiled because I didn't yet understand what was happening. I still thought adults said what they meant. Dinner that night was a performance, and I didn't know the script. Evelyn asked questions that weren't really questions. Where did I grow up? What did my parents do? What schools did I attend? Did I cook? Did I plan to keep working after marriage? Every answer I gave seemed to become evidence. If I sounded confident, I was ambitious in the dangerous way. If I sounded humble, I was insecure. If I laughed, I was trying too hard. If I stayed quiet, I was sulking. Preston sat beside me, silent, occasionally squeezing my hand under the table like a private apology. I needed him to speak out loud. He didn't. On the drive home, I asked, "Does your mother hate me?" Preston stared at the road like it had answers. "She doesn't hate you." Then, carefully, "She just has standards." Standards. The kind you can't meet if you weren't born into them. When Preston proposed, I was genuinely happy. It was just us, near the water, and for one bright minute I believed love would outrank Evelyn's control. A week later, Evelyn invited me to discuss logistics. Logistics. Like love was a shipment. She slid a folder across a glass table. A prenup. I understood prenups. I wasn't naive. People protect assets. Fine. But Evelyn didn't treat it like protection. She treated it like proof I wasn't family. Preston sat there and didn't argue, didn't soften it, didn't even look at me long enough to be brave. I signed anyway, because I still believed marriage meant he would finally choose me. I didn't understand that Preston had been trained his entire life to confuse peace with obedience. Preston wasn't cruel. That's what made it confusing. He didn't insult me. He didn't hit me. He didn't cheat, at least not in the traditional sense. He just didn't protect me. He worked long hours. He avoided conflict like it was a disease. He let Evelyn help with everything, and by help, I mean she invaded. She fixed my kitchen because my taste was too youthful. She replaced our towels because mine were thin. She critiqued my groceries like I was poisoning her son. "Whole milk," she'd say, horrified. "Jenna, cholesterol." Every holiday at the estate was a test I didn't know I was taking. Evelyn would compliment me in ways that were actually insults. "Oh, Jenna, you're so grounded," she'd say. "It must be so hard coming from such a simple background." "You're doing your best." Preston would squeeze my knee under the table and later in the car say, "She didn't mean it." And I'd think, then what does she mean when she speaks? The worst part was how it changed me. I started editing myself before I even opened my mouth. I rehearsed sentences in my head like I was preparing for trial. My own home stopped feeling like mine. Then, 3 years in, I got pregnant, and everything became efficient. Evelyn invited me for tea at the estate on a weekday afternoon. No witnesses, no distractions. Perfect conditions for emotional demolition. The tea set was white and delicate. The room was bright and cold. Everything looked untouched, like no one had ever cried there. Evelyn didn't say congratulations. She didn't ask how I felt. She said, "We need to fix this before it becomes public." I blinked. "Fix what?" "The situation," she said, smoothing her napkin like she was smoothing me out. "Preston is not ready, and frankly, neither are you." My hands went cold. "I'm his wife," I said, because I needed reality to do something. Evelyn smiled gently. "You're temporary, Jenna. Don't confuse a signature with security." Then she slid an envelope across the table. Inside was a check with more zeros than I'd ever seen in one place, and a stack of papers, neatly clipped, like she'd done this before. A marital settlement agreement, a non-disclosure agreement, a clean exit. "I can be generous," Evelyn said softly, "if you do the sensible thing." "You want me to leave," I said. "I want you to be realistic," she corrected. "A baby would complicate Preston's life." "A baby is part of life," I said, and my voice shook in a way I hated. "In your world, perhaps," Evelyn replied, like I was describing a different planet. "And if I don't?" I asked. Her eyes didn't change, but the air did. "If you don't," she said, "you'll walk away with nothing, and you'll still lose." I left that house shaking. That night I told Preston I was pregnant. For one breath, something flickered in his face, shock, joy trying to fight through fear. Then I told him what his mother did. I waited for him to explode. I waited for him to finally choose me. Preston rubbed his forehead and said, "Maybe she's just trying to protect me." Protect him. From his own child. From his own wife. From me. That sentence didn't just hurt. It clarified everything. 2 weeks later, divorce papers arrived through attorneys, like my marriage was a business deal that had gone out of warranty. Preston didn't call. He didn't come. He didn't fight. It became an uncontested divorce in family court. Short hearing, board clerk, a judge who asked if I understood what I was signing. I understood perfectly. I was signing myself out of a cage. Before my 3rd trimester, I moved to a small mountain town where no one knew the Harrington name. I gave birth in a beige county hospital with a nurse who squeezed my hand and said, "Honey, you're gonna be okay," like she'd said it 1,000 times. I named my daughter Lily because I needed something in my life that grew without permission. The first year was survival. Diapers, night feeds, panic math, coffee that tasted like regret. I freelanced from a laptop balanced on my knees. Copywriting, social media, branding decks, anything that paid fast and didn't require childcare I couldn't afford. There were nights I cried quietly into a towel so I wouldn't wake Lily. There were mornings I stared at the fridge and tried to convince myself that peanut butter counts as a meal, and then, because the universe has a weird sense of humor, I got good. Really good. I stopped writing cute captions and started building strategies. I learned how to make small businesses look like brands, how to make people click, buy, sign up, show up. It turns out when you've spent 3 years reading A Room for Danger, you get excellent at reading audiences. A boutique in Raleigh hired me. Their sales jumped. They told a friend. A friend told a founder. A founder called me and said, "I heard you're the one." By the time Lily was 3, I moved back to Charlotte. Not to chase ghosts, but because business was there. I rented a modest office, hired Rachel, and built a small agency that grew faster than my sleep schedule. Lily grew too, into a tiny person with glitter shoes and blunt honesty. At 5, she could negotiate for dessert like a tiny attorney and stare at rude adults like they were confusing. So when the Harrington invitation arrived, I didn't panic. I didn't cry. I thought, Evelyn really believes I'm still the woman she broke. Then I RSVP'd. Yes. I told Lily we were going to a party. Her eyes lit up. Will there be cake? There will be cake, I promised, because I am not a monster. The night before the wedding, I laid out our outfits. Mine. Deep emerald, tailored, clean lines. Not flashy, not desperate. Just undeniable. Lily's dress matched, because subtlety is optional when someone invites you as a punchline. She watched me hold it up. "Mommy, why are we dressing fancy?" I brushed hair off her forehead. "Because sometimes people need to see you standing up." She considered that seriously, then pointed at her shoe shelf. "Glitter shoes?" "Absolutely," I said. "We'll be polite. Aggressively." I packed snacks, wipes, a backup sweater. Motherhood is basically disaster preparedness with better mascara. Then I looked at myself in the mirror and thought about Preston. 5 years is a long time to ignore the existence of your child. I didn't want revenge. I wanted the truth to have good lighting and a front row seat. That Saturday, the Harrington wedding was held at the estate outside Charlotte, the kind of place where the driveway has a name and the mailbox looks like it votes. White chairs lined the lawn, flowers everywhere, a string quartet playing music that sounded like expensive sadness. There were valet attendants, champagne stations, and a coordinator with a tablet who looked like she'd seen every kind of chaos. Just not mine. We walked in, Lily's hand in mine, and I kept my face calm. Because here's the thing, the richest people in the room can smell fear like blood in water. A coordinator rushed up. "Hi, welcome. Name?" "Jenna Lewis," I said. Her fingers flew over the tablet. Her smile glitched. "Oh," she said too loudly. "Yes, you're here." Then quietly, like she was confessing, "Table 17." I leaned toward the seating chart. Table 17 was near the kitchen doors, close enough to the restroom that you could hear the hand dryer. Classic Evelyn. Bury the embarrassment near the plumbing. Lily looked up at me. "Where do we sit?" "With family," I said. The coordinator blinked. "Family seating is reserved." "Correct," I said, and walked past her. I took Lily straight to the front row, where little plaques read Harrington family, and sat down like it was the most natural thing in the world. The air changed. You could feel the wedding freeze mid-breath. Heads turned. Whispers started like wind catching. Evelyn stood near the archway in navy silk and pearls, smile set like dried paint. The moment she saw Lily, her mouth opened, then closed. Then she inhaled sharply, like she'd just realized the fire reached the curtains. Preston stood off to the side in a tux, laughing with groomsmen. He looked over, and his smile died. Because Lily has his eyes, not kind of, not maybe. Storm gray, with one small golden fleck in the right iris like a tiny sun caught in a cloud. I knew that fleck. Evelyn knew it. And then an older man pushed through the crowd, moving with the irritated confidence of someone who has been right his whole life. Walter Harrington, Preston's uncle, a retired genetics professor who avoided family events like they were contagious. He stopped in front of Lily and softened his voice. "Hello, sweetheart. What's your name?" "Lily," she said, calm as a queen. Walter's eyes flicked to mine. "Jenna," he said quietly, like the name unlocked an old memory. I nodded once. He crouched slightly. "May I see your eyes up close?" Lily leaned forward because she is 5 and fearless and has never met a situation she couldn't investigate. Walter turned on his phone flashlight. Evelyn hissed behind me, "Walter, don't you dare!" Walter ignored her. He studied Lily's eye for maybe 2 seconds, then straightened and said, loud enough for half the wedding to hear, "Well, that's the Harrington fleck." Silence. The kind where people stop blinking because blinking might mean they miss the scandal. Someone laughed nervously. Someone gasped. A bridesmaid whispered, "Oh my God," like she'd been training for this moment. Walter continued, conversational, casually terrifying. "Rare trait," he said. "Preston has it. His father had it. I have it." He gestured toward Lily. "And now, she does too." Evelyn went pale under expensive foundation. Preston looked like his brain was rebooting. And then the bride appeared. Catherine, Kate Monroe, stepped up in her gown, perfect veil, perfect smile, until she saw Lily, Preston's face, and Evelyn's panic. Kate stared at Lily, then at Preston. Her voice was calm, too calm. "Preston," she said. "Who is that child?" Preston opened his mouth. No sound came out, because silence is easy when it protects you, not when it exposes you. Kate's eyes sharpened. "Did you know?" Preston swallowed. "No, I didn't." Evelyn stepped forward, bright voice ready. "Catherine, sweetheart, this is obviously some kind of—" Kate turned to her slowly. "You invited her," Kate said. Evelyn blinked. "Excuse me?" "You invited Jenna," Kate repeated, louder now. "You put her on the list. You brought her here." Evelyn tried to smile. "We wanted to be gracious." Kate laughed once, short and ugly. "So your grace is inviting your son's ex-wife to watch him marry someone else, while he has a 5-year-old daughter." Kate's father surged forward, furious. grabbing Preston by the lapels like he could shake the truth out of him. "You have got to be kidding me," he snapped. Phones rose like a wave. The quartet kept playing because musicians are trained to ignore human collapse. Evelyn reached for Kate's arm. "Let's go inside. Let's not do this here." Kate yanked away. "No!" Her voice shook now. "You wanted an audience. Congratulations." Then she looked at me. And here's the part people don't expect. She wasn't angry at me. She was furious at the lie. She lifted her veil off and let it drop onto the grass like a surrendered flag. "I'm done," she said. And she walked away down the aisle alone, her dress catching petals and dirt. Preston didn't follow. He couldn't move. Evelyn stood frozen, watching her masterpiece burn. I leaned down to Lily and whispered, "Do you still want cake?" Lily nodded solemnly. "Yes." "Okay," I said. "We'll get cake somewhere else." I took her hand and walked out. No yelling, no speech, just truth, leaving quietly. Behind us, Evelyn's wedding became a nightmare. By the following Monday, the video was everywhere. Charlotte everywhere. TikTok clips with dramatic captions, Instagram stories, Facebook neighborhood groups pretending to be shocked while hitting refresh. I didn't post. I didn't comment. I had a business to run and a child who needed her routine more than she needed viral drama. Then Wednesday, Rachel walked into my office holding papers like they were contaminated. "You've been served," she said. Of course I had. A process server came downstairs, asked for me by full name, and handed me a petition like this was an episode of Law and Order, Uptown. It wasn't some dramatic, terminate her rights nonsense. Real court isn't that theatrical. This was a petition to establish paternity and request custody and parenting time. Translation: we want access, and we're using the system to force it. They claimed I'd hidden Lily. They claimed I'd alienated Preston, which was impressive, considering Preston had done the disappearing all by himself. I called my attorney Andrew. He didn't gasp. He didn't lecture. He asked one question. "Do you have documentation?" I opened a drawer and pulled out a red folder. 2 years' worth, I said. "Good," Andrew replied. "Then we respond." A few weeks later, we were in family court. Family court is fluorescent lights, uncomfortable chairs, and people trying to sound reasonable while actively plotting. Preston sat with his lawyer looking stiff and exhausted, like the tuxedo had been replaced by regret. Evelyn sat beside him like a general beside a soldier, calm, controlled, offended by the concept of limits. Their attorney opened with the money speech: stability, resources, opportunities, best interests. Then came the accusation. I withheld the child. I undermined the father's role. Andrew didn't argue emotionally. He argued structurally. First, he slid forward sworn declarations from former household staff, people who watched Evelyn up close and remembered everything. Housekeepers, a driver, a nanny, not friends, not people who hate her. Employees who were there, who heard the words, who saw the pressure. Evelyn's mouth hardened. Their lawyer called it allegations. Andrew nodded. "Which is why we're prepared to call witnesses." Then came the second folder. Public records, a second mortgage, debt, a line of credit. Not because debt makes you a bad parent, but because it made one thing obvious. Evelyn's motives weren't pure. When your main argument is resources, your finances are part of the story. Then Andrew placed the third document down. A trust created by Preston's late father, an education and health trust for future grandchildren, managed by a trustee, with certain distributions coordinated through the child's primary residential parent. Real American money doesn't sit in envelopes. It sits in legal structures. Evelyn didn't want Lily because she suddenly discovered grandma tenderness. She wanted Lily because Lily was leverage. The judge barely looked up, tired already. "We'll need a DNA test and temporary orders." Preston's lawyer wanted weekends immediately. Andrew said no. Lily didn't know him. We weren't treating her like a suitcase. The temporary plan landed where sane plans usually land: DNA test, short supervised visits to start, a step-up plan if things went well, and Preston was ordered not to allow Evelyn any contact with Lily during his parenting time unless we agreed in writing, or a judge later decided otherwise. Evelyn stared like she'd been told gravity was mandatory. Welcome to reality. The lab looked like every medical office in America. Beige walls, laminated posters about hydration, a receptionist who'd seen everything. Lily thought it was hilarious. "They're taking my spit?" "Yes," I said. "Science." "I'm a scientist," she declared proudly. Preston stood nearby, tense, holding his breath like guilt was oxygen. When the results came back, no one was shocked. Paternity confirmed. The judge didn't clap. Judges don't do that. The judge ordered a step-up plan built around Lily's life, not Preston's regrets. Preston's first visit happened at a supervised family center. Books, toys, a staff member nearby, everything designed to keep kids safe and adults honest. He showed up with a stuffed bunny and the expression of a man who realized he missed 5 years he can't buy back. Lily looked at him and asked, direct as always, "Are you my dad?" Preston froze, then nodded, eyes wet. "Yes." She considered that like she was deciding whether she liked a new cartoon. "Okay," she said. "Do you like pancakes?" He let out a shaky laugh. "I do." "Good," Lily said seriously. "Pancakes are important." And just like that, she gave him a doorway into her world. Evelyn wasn't there. She wasn't allowed. That was the first time I exhaled in weeks. A few weeks into the plan, Preston asked to talk. Just us. Andrew told me, "Public place, short, no drama." So we met at a busy coffee shop in South End, loud enough that manipulation couldn't bloom. Preston looked nervous. "Good," he said. "I want to understand." I stared at him. "Now you want to understand?" He swallowed. "I didn't know you went through with the pregnancy. My mother told me you handled it." I lifted a brow. "You knew I was pregnant. You didn't try to know what happened after." He rubbed his hands like he was cold. "My mother said you'd disappear and the money," I finished, dry. He flinched. "I'm sorry." Sorry is a small word. Sometimes it means something. Sometimes it's a Band-Aid on a broken bone. "I'm not here to punish you," I said. "I'm here to protect Lily." He nodded. "I want to be her dad." "You don't get to be her dad because you want it," I replied. "You get to be her dad if you show up consistently, and without your mother." Preston's jaw tightened. Then he nodded once. "I can do that." I didn't believe him yet, but Lily deserved the chance, as long as Evelyn stayed out. Evelyn tried to creep back in, a bouquet sent to my office, for Lily, from Grandma Evelyn. I returned it unopened, then a settlement offer, money, NDA language, and a friendly plan that mysteriously gave Evelyn access. Andrew replied with one word, "No." Then came the social pressure. People I barely remembered calling me to say, "Evelyn is just emotional. She's hurting. She's a grandmother. I listened and said, if she wants a relationship, she can respect the court order. Then I hung up. Because women like Evelyn expect people to fold. They treat no like a negotiation. But I'm not 25 anymore. I'm a mother, and motherhood teaches you a brutal truth. Politeness is optional when your child is involved. Preston didn't get his perfect wedding. Kate didn't get a perfect husband. Evelyn didn't get her perfect narrative. And I didn't get revenge in the movie trailer way people fantasize about. I didn't scream. I didn't throw wine. I didn't ruin the cake. I just showed up with the truth holding my hand. The court gave me primary physical custody. Preston got structured parenting time that expanded slowly as Lily got comfortable. Evelyn got limits and consequences. Preston is still learning. Some days he's awkward. Some days he's trying so hard it's almost painful to watch. But he shows up. And Lily, glitter shoes, strong opinions, tiny lawyer energy, comes home and tells me things like, Dad makes heart pancakes, but they look like blobs. Then she adds, very serious, don't laugh. He's trying. And that's when I know Lily is going to be okay. Because she has something I didn't have back then. A mother who won't let anyone erase her. So when I think about that invitation, gold foil, perfumed paper, that smug little card, I don't feel hurt anymore. I feel amused. Evelyn tried to humiliate me as a discarded mistake. And instead, she introduced her entire world to the one truth she spent 5 years trying to bury. Funny how that works. So tell me, if you were me, would you have stayed home and protected your peace? Or would you have shown up, held your kid's hand, and let the truth do the talking?